after the Taylor Swift Eras concert movie, I might wig a little bit if I saw T Swift too. I think I've been converted.
Wait, what?
I think I've been converted into like a Swiftie. I'm serious. You guys.
How did I don't?
Yeah, I was like,
it just took one viewing. That's it. That just because I remember you telling me you weren't really.
I literally was about to beg you not to make me go. I was like, I don't want to go. I don't.
That's what I'm like. You didn't even want, because if I was like, yeah, you know what, we can skip it. You probably wouldn't have.
I absolutely would have just like eaten the ticket cost and just been like, no. That was another thing. AMC was selling non-refundable tickets. I don't know if they told us that when we bought them, but they sure weren't letting anybody buy a seat and back on out of it or change reservations with my AMC stubs. So they were all of the showtimes for yesterday were basically sold out. I grabbed one of the last seats available yesterday, but it wasn't a full house when I got there.
I can imagine there was some FOMO that led to some ticket buying, and then people then change their minds or plans change. I mean, guys, let us know in the comments. Like, is this a pattern? Like, were tickets non-refundable? Because normally you can refund them up until the showtime, or you can cancel your reservation if you have like one of the A-list or the Cinemark membership things that they have. But I mean, look, as far as the finances go here, we know that AMC is distributing the movie, so you don't have like a studio playing the middleman, taking like a 5-10% cut. So that already means that this movie is very profitable. It probably cost them next to nothing to make it, because like, you know, having the cameras and everything, they cut it live as it was being filmed, and then they probably chopped together the best version of each performance that they wanted from the various different shows, and maybe some behind the scenes, which I'm sure you can tell us more about it, Angelina. But as far as the box office goes, AMC is predicting that it's going to come in just under 100 million, but it may come in over the 96 million. That would allow it to surpass Joker for the highest domestic box office opening in October of all time. There's other distributors, the rivals of AMC, that are sort of countering that and saying, no, you're probably looking at more of a number close to 94 million. And these numbers may change, you know, by the time we get what they call the actuals on Monday. But regardless of which of those numbers we land at, all of those numbers will blow the previous record for not the opening weekend, but the lifetime box office at the domestic box office for a concert movie ever. And Justin Bieber, what was it? Never Say Never in 2011. Justin Bieber in 2011 with Never Say Never holds the all-time record up until it's already gone, basically.
Just in case you guys need a reminder, that was Justin Bieber during his Selena Gomez era, when he was taking over the world.
Yes,
and
that was.
I did have a little bit of like Justin Bieber fever, as so many other people did when they were in elementary school and middle school. So.
Yep. And that movie made 73 million in total. And this is going to make like more than that in its opening weekend. So it's already well past it. Last week we talked about how they had sold $100 million worth of tickets in pre-sales alone. So it's already guaranteed that much. I mean, and you know, it's playing every weekend. It's not playing during the week. So it has a sense of exclusivity to it. And even if people buy the tickets and don't show up, I mean, that's money in the pocket of AMC and the Taylor Swift gang. Like it's all in the house. So I have to wonder now, like, what other records does it have in sight? Because if it breaks that Joker record, then that's going to be a significant achievement. And then we might be looking at a top 10.
How long the run is? Do we know how long they've bought out?
It's like 4 weeks,
okay,
as when I last checked. So they have left it open ended. Like that's a theme with this, right? Like from the moment they announced this to like then they were like, oh whoa, like oh wow, there's a lot more demand for this.
Yeah.
They kept adding on showings, and then like to the point where like they opened it a day early on Thursday before. They were saying not Thursday, we're going to start Friday after 6 p.m. So they added another day and a half to it. I can only imagine if this weekend goes well enough, they're going to be like next Thursday, you can also come. So basically the only days of the week you can't see it is Monday to Wednesday at that point. And like if the demand continues into the fourth week, they will probably add more weeks. Like, because I know that Beyonce's concert movie, the Renaissance movie, is coming on December 1st.
Mhm.
But given that we're in the middle of October, I would imagine even if they add a couple of weeks on the top of the 4 weeks, they still wouldn't quite clash with it.
Yeah.
Although with the Beyonce movie also being released by AMC in a similar sort of arrangement, I'd imagine that that's about the most they're going to want to do, because at that point they're cannibalizing their own. Like any big studio, they don't want to have two Marvel movies kind of run into each other at the box
Yeah,
office.
it's just too much competition, and it doesn't necessarily do anything for either of the parties or AMC. So that makes sense that their last cutoff, I would probably say like the weekend before December 1st
Mm-hmm.
would make sense to me. I feel like they probably will let it run up until then, though. As I
Yeah.
said, when I was looking at tickets, I looked at 3 or 4 different show times, which I usually like to do just to see like seats, whatever. There was nothing available for the first like 2 or 3 show times yesterday, and then I went to the 6:45, and they had one seat left, all the way in the back.
That's like my experience when I went to see the early screening of Barbie. I had to go sit
Oh
in one
yeah,
of the accessibility row seats,
yeah.
and I was just worried that if somebody else needed it, like they have the right to boot you out. I'm like, I was like, just fingers crossed. But it was 3 p.m. on an afternoon in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, I think. So, but hey, you know what? It was a good experience. So speaking of the experience itself, I already mentioned that there's video on the internet showing Taylor Swift dancing to her own songs
Mhm.
in a movie theater. And I can there's people who are already dancing with her, but then over the course of this video, I'd noticed there's other people who just like get up because they feel compelled to take part in what's going on around them. So I'm sure you weren't in a theater where Taylor Swift was watching the movie, because
I wish.
otherwise you would have told us. But what was the whole experience like? Where much like with Barbie, which was like this whole cultural phenomenon, it felt like a lot of people were dressing up to go to this movie. It
Yeah.
was like the next best thing to going to the concert itself. So what was that whole experience about going into the theater, and then the movie itself? What did you think about it?
So when
Since you're
you
a Swiftie now, you know.
okay,
So
Um,
you
so as far as when you walk into the Grove, AMC has its own bar. They had Taylor Swift cocktails. So they had like a whole new bar menu for the Taylor Swift Eras tour, which was kind of like, okay, I didn't get one of those. But I went, I saw the movie. I sat all the way in the back, which also meant that I could see all the people that did get up and dance. The girl next to me, the woman, she was actually like in her 40s or 50s. So she was a little bit older than I anticipated some of the people to be. I feel like most of the people were between like 20 and like 20s, 30s.
Mhm.
And then younger. There were definitely some younger kids there. I so she started like hooting and hollering like it was a real concert at one point, and she filmed a lot of the movie, which I feel like is probably illegal.
Well,
um,
yeah,
but
definitely illegal.
But with that being said, the overall crowd was really great. The movie, phenomenal. Some of the visual effects that she had for this concert were incredible. It was like they had really good aerial views. They had really good it was like a multicam situation. I'm assuming they had at
Mhm.
least like I would say at least 5 to 10 different cameras.
Oh no, I could probably imagine like close to 30.
I mean, there was like
Yeah.
aerial shots. You had that. It was like it was the stage was built like a huge runway, but at the end of the runway there was like 4 points. So
Mhm.
she kept hitting all the markers of the 4 points. The runway, the set design was stunning. The visuals and the graphics stunning. Again, they had like a huge light show. And also, what was so incredible was just the range. Taylor Swift, you've always, even if you're not a Swiftie, you have to give her so much credit for her range as an artist, because she started out as someone who wrote songs for other people at like 14. And then her first 2 albums were country folk albums. And then she moved into the pop sphere. Then she
Yeah.
went back to folk at some point, then has released like another 2 pop albums. Like she's been all over the place in a way that I don't know any other artist ever has. Um, and her set design and everything matches that. Like For Folklore, she designed this like beautiful little house set. I mean, the set's like just overall, it was probably the most put together concert I have ever seen in my life. It was probably the most thought out. Everything felt like it had a moment. It really did pay homage to like the eras of her life and the eras of her music. So I think it was like really well timed. There were very few times that she talked, but every time she did, she like gave pertinent information. She gave like a lot of kudos to her team. She gave a lot of time for her dancers to shine, like for them to like take part in the not only the choreography but like the overall act, which I thought was really incredible. And at the end of it, she thanked every single one of them. So, sort of everything that we've heard about Taylor Swift being like so incredible to her team, paying out all these bonuses to everybody that made it, very much showed in how the concert itself was like taken out. So, not only do I have to give her kudos for impeccable like design, impeccable like just I would want to be her friend after this, which is incredible. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like I think she sort of had this worldwide phenomenon because she's so incredibly relatable and so incredibly kind. And even when she's not like right, even her like bad blood stuff like that, it's literally just like I hear you talking shit about me, people. It's like this is just what it is. So you really have to give her that. In her latest album, it was the last one on the Eras tour, Midnights. You really get to see her like embrace fully being a woman in a way that I don't think for a long time she was able to, because she started out so young. People, especially in the music industry and the film industry, really either choose to over sexualize you, which I feel like a lot of people have done with Olivia Rodrigo, Britney Spears. Oh my gosh, like you can name them, Sierra. Like they were all so young when they started, and they do get over sexualized to a point where like they just have to continue playing into that. Whereas Taylor Swift really has always leaned back on more conservative outfits, more conservative this, more conservative just in totality. She was able to like embrace like her feminine energy more, which was cool. And overall, it was just a really empowering concert. I was like, holy shit, guys. So yeah, when I say I'm converted, don't be like, oh my gosh, she's a Swiftie. But oh my God, like you have to give this woman kudos. And not only that, like my biggest thing is I am a singer, right? Like I've been singing since I was little. I studied opera, if you guys didn't know that. Like I had professional vocal training for the majority of my life. My biggest issue with Taylor Swift for a very long time was she was a great songwriter, but anytime I would see her perform, like on the VMAs or anything like that, she was not the best singer. And I was just like, what is this? She was phenomenal. Phenomenal. So good. I was shocked. Like, so good, which tells me not only has she continued to like hone her craft, train, do all the things, she plays multiple instruments, she writes all of her own songs. Like, I have never seen something where I'm like, holy cow, this girl is the full package, and I want to be her friend, and I idolize her. Like, it just truly was an overall really great experience, guys. I have been converted. Thank you all so much.
That's a brilliant review. And also I think you can all add on top of that her business sense, her ability to sort
She's
of
so brilliant. I was like, holy
just
cow.
her personal brand and everything to do with that. It's she's been able to really connect with an audience in a way that, like the best comparison, of course, you've been talking about Beyonce. She's also been on tour around the same time. The two of them have like pumped $5 billion or more into the US economy. And like you would always look at Beyonce, even like whether it's the Renaissance tour or in general, like her personal brand is not that of you can just approach her, walk up to her and have a conversation. She's like meant to be
Queen
like on
bee.
this like other level. Like
She's
she's like
queen
the
bee.
queen and stuff. Like it's
100%.
so you just don't see that, like, or you just don't see that with like people who are at this level working at such a high level. Not only just the work rate and the talent, but also, you're looking at the person who's now got basically the most profitable, the biggest concert tour of all time.
Yeah.
And like Madonna is about to do another concert. Like she's starting up in the UK, I think. So it's also a great time if you're like a big fan of just going to concerts. Like we don't know if the NSYNC reunion tours are going to happen or not, but you can go watch Madonna. You've already probably had a chance to go see Taylor Swift and Beyonce, and now you can go see them in the theater. So I'm just fascinated by this. Like while you were talking about your review, I took a quick glance at the top 10 list of highest grossing movies for the year, and you just need to cross like 450 million to get into the top 10. Like,
Yeah.
and if you go past like 475, you can get into the ninth spot. And then if you can get over 500 million, you could potentially, depending on how close to 600 million you get, you could be in the top five. And if this movie starts out with 100 million, a lot of people are predicted based on the fact that it's not playing during the week, and there's so many seats that have already been pre-sold, like the pre-sales numbers being so high. This movie, not just the domestic but the worldwide numbers, it could like have the lowest drop off from the opening weekend of any movie this year. And like usually movies that start like in the neighborhood of $100 million or more, they drop off by like 50-60% because they're front loaded. Most people go see it in the opening weekend, but this one, it seems like people are going to go see it. They're going to go see it again, and it's not a movie that you can go see it on the weekend and then go see it in the middle of the week and then do something else the following weekend. You can only go see it in the weekend, or if you miss it this weekend, you gotta go see it next weekend. So they have created some artificial scarcity based on the schedule alone, and then it just seems like the Taylor Swift
Basic
fans are
economic
coming out
principles, yo.
strong.
Basic
Yeah,
economic principles.
to the point that I think I've been seeing articles about how this could be like a new trend for AMC and other movie distributors, where you cut out the studios and like the 5 or 10% cut that they take as a distributor for something like this. I'm not talking about like, oh, you make a movie like 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 a Killers of the Flower Moon, and then you use AMC to distribute that. No, I'm talking about like a concert movie or something like that, or like a really big, like if there's the biggest comedy, like live comedy tour of all time, and you want to take that and turn it into like the Netflix comedy specials, and you take like a really big one, maybe like when Chris Rock did his first show since The Slap, like maybe you take that and you put it out in theaters and you see like what kind of money, because like for a tour that made billions of dollars, if it makes 500 million here, it's a lot of it is profit, granted, but it's not like this is going to add 50% to the lifetime gross of this concert as a whole. But it's a much smaller percentage. But for other things like a comedy tour, it may be it may be like another viable source of revenue. But I mean, kudos to Taylor Swift. We've been talking about this basically every week for like a month, 2 months at this point, and I'm sure we'll discuss it further because we'll probably get even more, record-breaking news about the Eras Tour in the weeks and months, maybe months to come. And then, of course, Beyonce's Renaissance Tour lands there pretty soon. And so far, Beyonce hasn't managed to kick anybody out of the release slots, but depending on
I don't know.
how pre-sales do.
Thinking about that, there were a lot of people at the theater last night, and I think they only had 2 auditoriums for the Eras Tour. They might have had 3, but still the Grove is huge, and there were a lot of people at the movie theater. So I feel like a lot of people were there seeing other movies too. So I don't necessarily know if the kick them out of their opening release day slots was necessary on the studio's part, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think the thing is they look at the demographics, and I think that's really what drove those decisions. The key demographics that this movie is going after, because you mentioned it in your review, like a lot of people were between the ages of 20 to 30 or in their 30s. That's the demographic that a lot of the movies that moved out of the way are targeting, like the horror movie demographic, like The Exorcist. Like most people who are expected to go watch The Exorcist are in that age group, and they were like, if this is the weekend that movie comes out, most people are going to either choose between that and the Taylor Swift concert.
T-Swift.
So
considering you couldn't use your reservation, your studs.
Yeah. So and I think, I mean, they made the right decision because like they opened a week early and they made like almost 30 million, and they got themselves to a good start, and they'll probably make a small profit. I mean, they're probably not going to make back the 400 million they spent on buying the franchise Universal did. But anyway, back to Taylor Swift. Guys, let us know in the comments below if you went to see the Eras Tour in the movie theater already. What was your experience like? And if you are going to go see it next weekend, what are you looking forward to? And like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm sure we'll be back here talking about Taylor Swift again in the not too distant future.